All right, here we go, everybody. So the NBA Eastern Conference Finals is finally in the books. Game 7 is done. The Miami Heat are going to the NBA championship again. Again. I want to say that it was said that Eric Spoelstra, this is his 6th trip in 15 years. That's impressive for Mr. Eric Spoelstra. No name. Let's recap this game, shall we? So, I took heavy, like a lot of notes. It's not that many pages, but we did get some notes in. So, the game pretty much kicked off where if you saw the game and when you see the beginning, it looked like Boston, for the most part, had an idea of what they wanted to do. They had an idea of what game they were trying to portray, but it was Tatum's ankle. It seemed like to kind of hinder them. Tatum would score an early injury to his ankle early in the first quarter. But if you paid attention to Miami the entire postseason in the East Coast, their bread and butter has pretty much been grit them out, beat them up, beat you down defense. So here it goes. So in the 10-minute and 34-second mark, Heat only had 2 shots. None by Jimmy Butler. Score was 0. By 9:36, the Heat seemed like they were unsure what to kind of do. By 7:06, the Heat need to do more. The Heat weren't even getting any offensive rebounds, right? At the 6:40 mark, the score was 9-4. I went ahead and tweeted that the Mets in the Colorado Rockies game had more runs at that point than the basketball game, all right? By the 5:16 mark, the score was 6-9, Boston. Boston was ahead. It seemed like that might have been it after that. Miami then started to pick it up. They went on a 10-2 run by the 3-minute mark. They just started hitting threes. I went ahead and tweeted, you might as well call Miami the Golden State Heat, because they weren't they just between Martin, Duncan, I wrote his name down, Vincent. Yeah, they just started hitting the threes. Jimmy Butler seemed like he was okay with taking shots, but he hesitated to take a lot of shots. For a guy that's been deemed Jimmy Jordan, he wasn't as aggressive as you think he would be. I can't break this down per quarter, nor do I feel like attempting to. Crazy thing enough, right? The type of game Jimmy Butler had, he went 3 for 7 from three-pointer, 12 for 28 from the field, 43 minutes. He had 28 points, okay? He had a quiet 28 because it was Caleb Martin who led the way the entire way with 26 points. I mean, he led the way offensive by tempo. Not by points, but by tempo. Because he went 4 for 6 from threes, and those threes was critical. He also had 10 rebounds. That's the other kicker. So before I get back into the notes, that's where the biggest takeaway was. Miami just seemed to get over. Like, Boston couldn't figure out. They just looked lost. They looked unenthused. They really looked like they didn't want to play. Like, Jaylen Brown, yeah, he had a pretty, like, if you play in the NBA long enough, you're going to have a decent game. Jaylen Brown, 19 points early in the game, though. If we go back to the end of the half, I want to say Jaylen Brown had 13 points. So in the second half, he only scored another 6 points in 2 quarters of basketball. In a game 7, you didn't see it. And all we've heard all year is Boston, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, these guys, they're the guys. Nah, they weren't. So, list the questions. So, for Miami, so if I look at my notes, right, and I pause because I was trying to figure it out, I'm asking myself, Miami, did they win this because they had more heart than they had more skill? Well, it's a little bit of both. They're the team that had the most players who missed time this year. But if you go back and you look at the Miami Heat record just from a year ago, they were 53-29. This year, they were 44-30. Still above, but they were an 8th seed. Going to the finals this year marks the first time since 1999 when the New York Knicks went from being an 8th seed to the NBA Finals. They would meet their fate in losing to the San Antonio Spurs. Funny enough, on the last episode of my show, I compared the Denver Nuggets to the Spurs, and could this be full circle? We're going to talk about that matchup just a bit. But how did Miami pull this off? Defense. The old school way. If you watch the game, their defense was smothering. They were everywhere. They went, at one point, they went into a zone. I want to say they went into a 3-2 zone, right? And the on-the-ball defense was insane. As that ball moved, they moved. So anytime, now Boston had a lot of wide open threes, they just missed. But it was due to the fact that the Miami Heat made them work for every shot. Not to mention, Boston fell in love with the ISO game. That's another reason. The Miami Heat lost the other three games because Boston played as a team. In this game, they fell in love with the ISO ball. The moment they saw that Tatum was not going to carry them, they needed to move that ball around a lot more, work it inside. They fell in love with shooting threes for something that they couldn't do the entire game. Before I go to the overall stats, go back to the second quarter. I got a paper flip through. For those of you listening, you know I did work. But check this out. The end of the first half, Miami was 21 for 45 from the field. Boston 17 for 44. When it came to threes, Miami 8 for 16. Boston 4 for 21. Boston never strayed away from, we're not hitting threes, let's attack the basket, let's work the ball, let's get to the basket, settle for the twos. The idea of you thinking that you could just shoot yourself out of it sometime is game 7. You can't do that. This is where the experience of Eric Spoelstra being an experienced coach came into play, where the Boston Celtics head coach, him being his first year, I'm older than him, and he couldn't get it done in this game. When we look overall at the team stats, by the way, Jimmy Butler is the Eastern Conference MVP, the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, although Caleb Martin should get half of that trophy. The overall Boston Celtics shot 32 for 82 from the field, 39% overall, 9 for 42 from threes, 21%. Only in 1970 would that matter. And you know why? There was no three-point line in 1970. The Celtics just did not get it done. Here's a stat that I'm more concerned about. The Boston Celtics had just 10 offensive rebounds, right? And then they lost the rebound battle overall because, well, it was close. It was even. I'm beating them up. But in a game like this where you're not shooting the ball that well, you can't afford to be even in the rebounding battle, 42 to 40. Like in this type of game, the Celtics needed to win the rebound battle. They're showing the highlights of when the Knicks beat the Indiana Pacers in '99 to go to the finals. Look at Latrell Sprewell get to the basket. My man Jeff Van Gundy hugging it out with Allen Houston. Then the Knicks just got blued out after that. But then, if you look here, more defensive assist-wise, Miami's assist total 26 to Boston's 18. Again, goes back to my point. Miami moving the ball, playing more as let's get that ball around and looking for that extra pass, while Boston was settling for their first shot, making it their only shot because they couldn't even win the rebound battle. This wasn't a game that came down to the officials. This wasn't a game that came down to who wanted it, who didn't want it. This was a game that came down strictly to the simple fact that Boston got outplayed, outcoached, outrun, outhearted, everything. Watch the game. If you watch any of the game, think of the fourth quarter. And I think I wrote it down. I'm pretty sure. I put in the fourth quarter, Boston just looked lazy. They just looked lazy. They looked like they had no more motor. They looked like they had nothing else to give. They almost looked as if we don't want to face Denver. That's what it looked like. And this is a team that's in the finals last year against Golden State and now is out, okay? We get back to my line of questions. What does Miami winning this year mean for the NBA? Well, it means a lot of things. Number one, in a league or in a time where everybody thinks they got to get the next free agent, let's sit back, wait for the next free agent. Miami proves to you It's okay. Draft guys, nobody knows their name. Draft guys in the second round. Groom, build, mold. You get 1-star talent, but they got Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, that two-headed combination. But you see the other list of characters that they were able to muster and put together. If you look at the Miami Heat roster, right? It is a gaggle of who's who. A gaggle, you heard me. You have Caleb Vincent. Nobody knew who he was until today. Okay? Tonight he gave him 10 buckets, if you will. Then you had Caleb Martin, who basically earned himself a fat new paycheck. Duncan Robinson still, gave him the 10 points. This is a guy that even had lost his starting position. And this is a team that was missing a key cog in the wheel for them. A player that, some would have said might have been the second most important player on the team, behind Jimmy Butler, and just in front of Bam Adebayo, and they missed him the entire time. Tyler Hero, he was out. They didn't get the kind of production that they wanted at Kyle Lowry, but yet they were able to grit it and get it in and make it to NBA Finals, where the Milwaukee Bucks were supposed to be there. The 76ers were supposed to be there. The Boston Celtics. Those were the 3 teams. And then earlier than that, you had the Brooklyn Nets. Those were the 4 teams. Nobody was talking about the Miami Heat. And here you go. Funny enough, I told everybody Miami Heat was going to win. The other night, I got text messages. Oh, Boston. Ain't nobody text me until White hit that lucky shot. That's all I'm saying. All right. So, what should Boston do after this? What should they do? Well, should they blow it up? They should add something. Should they get rid of... I like the Tatum-Brown combo, but it's time. I think Al Horford, they may have to replace him. If they can pull the trigger and find a way to put something together, the player that can help them, in my opinion, is Karl-Anthony Towns. He fits that type of team, and they can use him. He's young. He's explosive. That's the guy I think they should go after, but we ain't going to spend any time on that. Well, we're going to spend time on, can Miami beat the Denver Nuggets? Well, no. Miami, just like the Knicks in '99, have met their match. The Denver Nuggets are bigger. The Denver Nuggets they play more cohesive than you've seen the Knicks, than you've seen against the Milwaukee Bucks. The Miami Heat beat the Bucks, where they saw the Greek Freak get hurt. They beat the Knicks, who's not there yet, and they beat a Boston team that's a little falling apart. They're going against a team that's ready, put together. That team is a fist that is unbreakable. They're like Thanos right now with that gauntlet, and you're just going to have to pull it apart game by game by game to get an Infinity Stone. If Miami gets one, that'd be impressive. But this is the year we will crown the Denver Nuggets an NBA champion for the first time ever. There will be a Downright Sports NBA Finals preview show, whatever, spaghetti baleba. That's going to be this Wednesday, May 31st. You can hear it exclusively on DJ Chase Radio and anywhere you can download major podcasts. So stay tuned for that and download that. So in any case, where's Jimmy Butler, in my opinion, rank all time? Him not winning a championship is one thing, but him getting to the finals now twice, him beating the teams he's beaten to get there, I feel like you got to put Jimmy Butler in a different, Jimmy Butler has passed T-Mac. He has passed Dwight Howard. He's definitely passed Carmelo Anthony. He's definitely passed Chris Paul. He is in that rare air where you got to consider Jimmy Butler, in my opinion, may have passed Charles Barkley. He not quite, because Charles got an MVP. Charles got his team to the finals. Jimmy got his team to the finals twice now. If Jimmy Butler can win a championship, Jimmy Butler is in that weird, where do we put him? He's not in the top 10 all the time, but is he in the top 20, the top 15? That's a conversation to really have. I will explore that later, I promise you. Anyway, hey, this has been the Downright Sports NBA Eastern Conference Finals Game 7 recap show. Again, the Miami Heat beat the Boston Celtics in Boston. You know what? I got a few minutes. Let's go. Let me slow down. All weekend, all day, all I've been listening to is the drummings of 2004, and this is Boston. It's 2004 all over again. Calm down, okay? There was no bloody sock this time. The Celtics lost. They went down. They're defeated. They're over. It's done. Whew, got that off my chest. Hey, thank you all for listening and watching. It's been cool. Subscribe to Downright Sports at YouTube. Become a bench warmer at the Downright Sports fan page at Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Follow me at Twitter at Brent Reid 18. Download the podcast on Apple, Spotify. Listen to it on the DJ Chase Radio app or DJChaseRadio.com. As always, be safe. We'll talk to you guys later in the week. Deuces.